Hello everyone, Holly Agnew here with Holly's Holistic Health. And I just want to talk to you a bit tonight about somebody I talked to last night. Because think about this, have you ever caught yourself reaching for some kind of candy every single night? Not because you're starving, but just because you want the crunch or the control or just something after dinner. So I had a conversation last night with a client, and I think like so many other women will relate to this because when it comes down to it, it comes down to sugar. So I was talking with the client this evening, and she was sharing how much she's been struggling with sugar lately, and her go-to is hard candies. So at first glance, it sounds like that's the problem, that it is a sugar problem. But when we slowed it down, it wasn't really all about sugar. It was more about the hard candies. She liked something crunchy. She liked that it lasted longer than a lot of other sugar, things that have sugar in it. And she liked the feeling of being in control and not mindlessly eating. So naturally, my first thought was, how can we meet this need without it turning into guilt or frustration? Because she has a lot going on in her life, lots of stress, lots of moving pieces that she's having trouble keeping up with. And one of the things I suggested was having a glass of water on the counter after dinner and an essential oil nearby to add some flavor. And it amounts to something refreshing, something intentional, and something that says, this is my after dinner moment. And at the time, I thought that flavor was the biggest draw. But it wasn't. It wasn't all about sugar. Because the part that really stood out to me as we kept talking is she realized that it wasn't sugar she was craving, it was the crunch. And honestly, that changed everything, because once you know what you're actually looking for, you can meet that need without fighting yourself. So the other thing I suggested, it was that she made her own crunchy candy or treats, and it turns out that somebody in her family had a recipe for some hard candies. So I suggested that she look into healthier ingredients, like maybe honey or anything but processed sugar, and see what she could come up with ingredients that she actually recognized and had control over what went into what she was consuming. Because the thing about the stuff you buy in the store, most of the time you don't realize or you don't recognize the ingredients that are in it. I don't know if any of you guys are label readers and ingredient readers, but I am, and to me it's appalling what is in our food. So if you haven't looked at labels, I challenge you to start looking at them and see how much you actually recognize in the food that you're eating. Not just stuff with sugar in it, but just in labels in general. Because we have actually been duped as a country. We are probably one of the richest countries in the world. We are also one of the sickest countries in the world. At probably the sickest country in the world. We have the best medical care and the worst health care, because it's not health care, it's sick care. Sorry, got off on a tangent there. But anyway, so she's also looking for something that gives her crunch and pleasure. And if she made her own candies, it would do that. And that doesn't come with a side of shame. And that's the big thing, because you don't want to feel shame when you want to enjoy something. Because let's be real, like I said, most of the candy on the market today has ingredients we can't even pronounce. So one of my favorite things we talked about is this. She usually wants her candy after dinner. And so instead of eating in secret and feeling out of control, I suggested she put a piece on the counter ahead of time for that dinner meal. Not as a rule, not as a punishment, but as a choice. And that way she can enjoy the crunch and the pleasure without guilt. And this is only part of what I want you to hear. Eating sugar is not about guilt. It is about understanding. And that is why this has such a pull on you. What's going on in your life? Because this lady had tons and tons of stuff going on in her life. She had just lost a business. There's some kind of lawsuit going on with that. She had to find another job because she'd lost like her life savings with this business. She is looking into starting another business. She has other stuff going on in her personal life besides the business side of her life. So lots of moving pieces, and sugar is something that helps to ground her, but she also wants to be healthy. So the thing to think about, and what I told her, is to actually think about what you're needing in that moment. And for her, and honestly for a lot of women, it's stress. Stress is something that you don't need, but it is a huge, huge factor in our lives, especially as women. I was just on a podcast tonight, and that's one of the things we were talking about, that as women, we tend to carry a lot more stress than men. And unfortunately, that's one of the things that can be one of our downfalls if we don't learn how to manage it appropriately. So we always want to make sure that we are doing our best to take care of us. And again, unfortunately, a lot of women are not good at that. I'm one of those. I am not real good at taking care of myself. I'm trying to improve on that. But I tend to put everybody else before me. So again, working on that. But if that's something that you need to work on, I'd love to help you with it. So I got off track again. Sorry about that. So when life feels overwhelming, sugar can feel grounding. It can feel soothing. It can feel like control when everything else feels chaotic. And if this is resonating with you and you're realizing sugar isn't the real issue, I want to invite you to join me for my sugar workshop on January 22nd, which is not next Thursday, but the Thursday after at 7 p.m. And we're going to dig deeper into why sugar has such a pull, how stress plays a role, and how to work with your cravings instead of fighting them. So if you want the details or the link, just drop workshop in the comments or send me a message and I'll be happy to send you everything that you need. And please excuse my work kitty is scratching at my door, so I need to go let him in before he scratches my door off because my husband is getting ready to go to bed. So you guys have a great night. Talk to you soon.